Hello, everybody. My name's Derek Arden and welcome to Monday Night Live. We've got a great show tonight. We've got Tim Durkin from Texas, from Granbury in Texas, a long-term friend of mine, and I'll tell you a little bit more about Tim in a minute. But first of all, I want to tell you about a problem I had. And when I'm helping clients with their negotiation skills, very often we have to get the drains up and have a real think about what's going on. And the preparation can often be much longer than actually the negotiation. So that's the only way you can really do a negotiation. So I got a problem next week, and this is the challenge that I always give myself when I've got a problem. I put the 9-dot problem on a flip chart like this, and I'm sure you've all seen the 9-dot problem, but you might like to do it yourself. Put 9 dots on a piece of paper while you're listening to me, and I'd just like you to join them up with 4 straight lines without taking your pen off the paper. Now, what actually happens with this is a lot of people have seen it before, can't remember how to do it. And I think it's a great thing for negotiations to think about what your variables are, what the takeaways are, what the USPs are, what all the things that you're going to put in to the negotiations before you start it. So for those of you that can't remember how to join the 4 straight lines up, the 9 dots up with 4 straight lines, this is how you do it. Down here, outside the box, up here, outside the box, across here, and down there. And I often use that at the start of my talks. I've never done it on Zoom before, but I might do it on Thursday if you tell me that it worked all right and you can see it, because it's great to use a flip chart on Zoom. They all expect you to be using slides and all that. And then I say, well, everybody knows how to negotiate. Kids are fantastic negotiators. When you're negotiating, the real issue is to get into this arena here where people haven't thought about and use those to increase the value, decrease the costs, think about the relationships, pause before you reply when someone's winding you up, etc., etc. And I'd just like to know, if it's okay, before I introduce Tim, how many people could remember how to do that? Hands up, please. How many people remembered that? 4, 5, only 5 people. And frankly, you are I only invite absolute experts on this program. The rest have been axed off the list. And guess what? Only 5 of these absolute experts got that.
Derek, I would recommend that if you're going to do that, you use a broader marker, because for me it's hard to see the answer.
Okay,
so
Tim, thank you.
Would do that.
Okay, thanks for that. I'm not going to waste any more of your time with this. So the problem on Monday night is that I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be in London. So the solution to this that I came up with is Monday Night Live next week will be Tuesday night. So Monday Night Live is now Tuesday night, and it's with our old friend, Will Kintish. So Will, thank you for agreeing to change Monday Night Live to Tuesday Night Live. Never been done before. Another first for Kintish and I. Okay, now what I want to do now is introduce my friend Tim Durkin. Tim and I first met on the 10th of January 2007 at 7:05. Tim, being an introvert, was sitting in the bar at the Marriott Marco Island. I nearly said Marco Polo Island. Marco Island, enjoying a Rolling Rock beer on his own, just like John Baker and I like to do, because we're introverts when we've been at a conference all day. I was attending the National Speaking Association's conference at Marco Island University, and I'd had enough of talking to people. In fact, I was only one of 3 Brits on the seminar. So I decided to go up to Tim. He looked a nice guy, and talk to him. He gave me daggers, I think, to start off with. But 4 Rolling Rocks later, and another 14 years later, we've become great friends. And Tim's a great pal of mine. We're on the same page. We're lifelong learners. And Tim, that was brilliant that we did that. He gave me a copy of this book, which he'd written, Promise Performance, which I've kept on my bookshelf ever since. And it was a great pleasure to get this book through the post for me to send on to one or two of you, Points of Impact. Tim, welcome. Thanks for joining us once again. This is the 6th time you've appeared on Monday Night Live. I thank you that you hold the record at the moment, but maybe you will go to the 7th one as well.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and I do believe that Will break the tie probably next Tuesday night. So good on Will. You don't have a record; you just hold it momentarily. As
Tim will probably hold the record for Tuesday Night Live for a while, but
yes, he will.
So
Tim, it is a pleasure.
Tell us about this book. I've thumbed it. I've turned the pages down. My wife hates people doing that. She's totally against it. It's the most sacrilegious thing you can do. How did you go about the book? Tell us about that first.
Well, I've been involved with leadership development for nearly 30 years. And throughout that time, whenever I get a good idea, whenever luck or chance favors me and I come up with an insight, or that I read something that is, basically profound, I collect them, and I used to type them out. I used to handwrite them. And then I started using a smaller book, a small journal-like book. It's not a diary. And I discovered that these small books like this have a name, and they're called Commonplace Books. And Commonplace, they've been around actually since Aristotle, but the person who gave them a real impetus is your man, John Locke, who in the late 1600s came up with the term commonplace, referring to common topics. And he would make notes on ethics. He would make notes on poetry. He would make notes on ideas that he wanted to write about or speak about. And so Commonplace Books became Common Things. Well, Commonplace Books is a gathering of insights. Now, I no longer write them in a small booklet, because we are gifted with a Commonplace Book app on all of our phones. And for Apple, it's called Notes. I'm not sure what it is on Android, but I started keeping the notes on my iPhone, and I got insights, if you will, and I got 936. Well, I thought, if I'm going to serve leaders, it's said that leaders are readers. And I kind of disagree with that, because most of the leaders that I know are very busy, and the hours that they don't spend working, they have obligations with family. They also have obligations with community. And by the time they open a book, it's time for their eyes to close. So I wanted to find a way to provide leaders with insights, gems, pearls of wisdoms, seashells, whatever you want to call them, in one small format. And I came up with the Commonplace Book idea. And so out of the 936, I put 106 in this book. That was really, that actually took a couple of years to winnow the group. Every idea had to audition for inclusion. And as it went on, some of the ones that were included got excluded, and but basically a lot of fun.
Great. So we know what the issues were. Did you get writer's block? Now, I was reading that the great author Val McDiarmid in the Sunday Times writes for 20 minutes and then has a gap. And I thought, what a great idea, because, you can really go for it for 20 minutes. How did you do it?
Well, I basically have, I forget what the word is, but I basically have continuous writer block. It's when it unblocks that I write something down. I don't have a prescribed way of writing. I don't write for like a half an hour in the morning, which people have recommended. I don't write for a half an hour in the evening. It takes a great deal of discipline to write, which I don't possess for writing. But I do get these insights, or I will read something. The thing I am disciplined about is reading. I read 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. So it's often during those times that I will come across an insight, or I'll close the book or whatever I'm reading. And then when I go to bed, something will coalesce and I will have an insight. And I keep a pen and pencil near my bed, and that's how I did it. That's why, by the way, the book took so long.
Fantastic. I remember when I was writing the book for Pearson, and if it who works for Pearson's on this call, it was only when I was chased by Eloise Cook, the editor, and she got on my case, that I actually got down and wrote bits because my mind had just gone blank. Now, Tim, you published this yourself. Tell us about how that worked.
Well, that was really almost a joy in many ways. And I'll tell you, the biggest joy was the amount of money that I saved by publishing it myself. The first book that you mentioned, Moving from Promise to Performance, that cost me thousands in editing, cost me thousands in printing. It cost me thousands in design. And then, you know, I had to buy my own books and hopefully sell them. And I do believe probably after 10 years, I might've broken even. But Kindle, Amazon has something called KDP, Kindle Digital Publishing. So the way that I wrote this book is I wrote it and I put it in Word, and I had each page paginated. And then I went on to a very, very useful website, which I believe I've mentioned here before, but I strongly recommend, is Fiverr.com. And it's spelled F-I-V Victor E-R-R, 2 R's.com. And I found an editor, and she took my mashed up English and my horrendous punctuation, etc., and she made it read very well while keeping my voice. So I found her, and by the way, her name is Nancy. I can give you her contact information if you like, but she helped with grammar, and she keeping my voice is very important because throughout the book, you might have noticed I'm a little bit edgy, I'm a little bit direct, and I wanted to write with that tone, which is sometimes my tone, but not often. But I wanted to be really direct, because leadership, you don't mess around as a leader. You really have to be a little bit serious. You can be kind, you can be compassionate, but you're the leader and you're responsible for people. And so I don't pussyfoot around that topic. So anyway, she did that. That was $100, okay, or £100, whatever. And then I went to Kindle. Oh, and then I needed somebody to format it, because if you know how to format it, you can send it right to Amazon Kindle and sign up, and it's a very simple process, but you have to go through a number of steps. My problem was making it fit into the Kindle and to the book format. So I hired one more person from Fiverr to do that for me. There's a bunch of people on there that say, hey, have you written a book? If you want to publish it on Amazon KDP, Kindle Digital Press, I will put it in the format for you. Well, that was the best $50 I ever spent right there. And they did it. What Amazon did, and for those of you who already have the book, is I wanted it 4x6. I wanted it to fit in my pocket. And the problem was they didn't adjust the type font size, and so I've got a very small. So anyway, I bought 100 copies, $2 each for my own, and I will now do another edition, and I will correct the size of the font, but I'm going to keep it 4x6. So all of that is to say, I hired 2 experts for a total of about $150. And now all I have to do is buy the book, and I get the book at just over $2. So I really feel strongly that we all have a book inside of us. And if the only audience is our loved ones, what's wrong with that? So please don't leave with your book inside of you, because it's not expensive, and you might make a heck of a nice holiday gift.
Yeah, no, just a few things on that, and if it's listening, we might talk to her afterwards. But there's 3 types of publishing. Number 1 is just do it yourself, like you did, which is the cheapest. Number two is where people offer you publishing, but actually they're going to charge you quite a lot of money for doing things that you can do yourself quite easily, like ISBN numbers, etc. And then there's the third type, if you're lucky enough to get someone like Pearson to come along, like John and I have, and ask you to write a book. But I'm very wary of that middle road, because people tend to make a lot of money out of that, and they're running it as a business, and they're selling it like, you know, we want you to publish a book, but it's not. It's a way of doing that. So
the thing that I want to mention is with Kindle Direct Publishing, I didn't have to buy an ISBN number. They bought it for me. The cost for buying ISBN numbers, if I was going to do it myself, would have been more than the entire cost that I had incurred before that. So Kindle Direct Publishing is great. And my goal was never and will never be to write a best-selling book. I just want to write the best book and sell it.
We're going to turn to the book now, Tim, because there's so many tips in here that I want to ask you about. All these pages I've got turned down, so I'm going to give you a time limit on each
Please
tip.
do.
So you've got to go for it. Page 87. I work backwards. I always read books backwards. I flick them like that, and it's thinking outside the box as well. It keeps me up. It keeps me speedy. Straight Not Straightened, said by Marcus Aurelius. Meditation book. What's that all about? Straight Not Straightened.
Marcus Aurelius wrote the first and still the best book on leadership, as he was preparing, because he knew he would one day be Roman emperor, excuse me. He knew he wanted to write thoughts to himself about how to be a good leader. He started out, interestingly enough, by thanking everyone in his life, starting with his father, mother, and going through. It's just a wonderful book, especially if you get the right translation. Straight Not Straightened was his advice to never be tempted to do something for which he would then be sorry for, or he would be ashamed for other people to know, and he would have to apologize. He would have to straighten out. He says, just be straight, and you never have to worry about having to get yourself or somebody else straightened out. So, in 3 words, that's awesome life and business advice.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm keeping going, Tim. I'm keeping you to our timing. Page 76, the paradigm of command and control is being replaced by connect and collaborate. Absolutely.
Most of our organizations are built on military, the military design, hierarchy. Hierarchy is dead. Hierarchy goes this way. Wirearchy goes this way. It is not who you know, it's who knows you. And the key is to be able to connect and collaborate, because it no longer matters as much who you are, but it does matter how you are. How do the other people in the organization view you? And can you cross silos? Can you be seamless? So command and control, which is this kind of power, the power paradigm is fading quickly, and the collaboration paradigm is up there. Especially, this is being led by the millennials, but that will not stop with the next gen.
Okay, fantastic. Page 68. Be hard on the issue, but soft on the problem. That's, of course, one of my negotiation tips in the book as well. In my book, praise in public, correct in private. So many times we've seen that done wrong.
Yep. There's no need to berate somebody, especially if you want them to continue to work for you. Now, they may continue to be in your employment, but they'll stop working for you. They'll RIP, they'll retire in place. So if you're going to correct somebody, correct them for what was done. Talk about the process, talk about the problem. The way I like to say it is fix the problem, not the blame.
Absolutely. I'll give you a bit more time, because this covers 4 pages. The VIVA model, Valor, Vision, Vitality, and Values, page 53. Why is it called a VIVA model when there's 4 V's rather with 2 I's in it?
Well, it's VIVA. It was called VIVA2, and it's called that because that's the name I gave it. One of the things I wanted to do is distill a lot of ideas into a short idea and to a model. Nigel has, worked in academia. If you're going to come up with some new ideas, you really have to be able to put it in the form of a model. So as I knew this, and facing this, I wanted to come up with a model for 4 basic fundamental ideas around leadership. And I came up with the ideas, and then it just so happened that I could create a mnemonic for it, which is VIVA. So to talk about them is the first VI stands for vision. And I tell people that you need to give people a vision. The Bible says mankind without a vision will perish. Okay, people, if they don't have a vision, if they don't have something to shoot for, they will not move. Confused people won't move. Doesn't mean they won't do anything, as I mentioned before. There will be activity, but there won't be accomplishment. So that's the key idea with the vision. And it's the leader's job to articulate the vision up to literally, if you're CEO or C-suite, maybe 1,000 times a month, what the vision is, because people need to be reminded of the vision. I work a lot in healthcare. Healthcare is now so stressful and the job is so tough that people tend to forget that they have the greatest job in the world, helping people in their greatest time of need. So they get to be at their best when they're helping people at their worst. That's a great vision. That's a compelling vision. And that's what they do. The first VA stands for values, and values are just bedrock. The values create the goals. The goals have to have standards, but it all comes back to what are the values of the organization. And here's the key. They can't be espoused values. They have to be lived values. You can't, I've worked with companies, I know of companies that they have wonderful, glowing, poetic value statements, which in the day-to-day world that they exist in, they ignore, especially ignore them to their customers. So they have to be lived values, not just espoused values. Now, one of the things I recommend, an exercise, and a very few people have ever done this exercise, but the ones that do have gotten back to me, is do a values audit. Ask the people that work for you what their 5 top values are. You might have to have them Google values. They'll get a list of 2, 3, or 4, or 500, and they'll pick from there, pick 5. Then ask them what they believe the company's values are, 5, and then ask them what they believe your values are, 5, and then you do it yourself. You gather them up and you start reading what people's values are, what they believe your values are, what they believe your company's values are. And all I will say is reality is an acquired taste, because that is going to probably be a very eye-opening experience. Third V, or second VI, third of the VIVA model, that is for vitality. Whether you're in the healthcare business, the banking business, the television broadcasting business, financial, real estate, whatever, you're really in the energy business. If you are a leader, your job is to use your energy, directing the energy of your people to get your company's best results, to get better patient outcomes, to sell more, what am I saying? Financial programs, financial benefits, to sell more real estate, whatever it is. So you have to manage energy. And in order to do that, you have to have vitality yourself. Nobody wants to follow Eeyore. If you remember from Winnie the Pooh, everybody wants to, they're attracted to people that have this energy, this vitality, this savoir-faire, whatever you want to call it. You definitely want to do that. And then the second VA is for valor. I believe in courage, temperance, knowledge, some of the Stoic philosophies. courage was the original word, but it didn't fit into the model, the VIVA model. It would have been VICA or something. So I went with valor, and I actually like valor better because it really does take courage to be a leader in these times. You have to have the difficult conversation. No problem ever got better by ignoring it. And the other thing is avoidance is the arch enemy of accomplishment. So you have to have the valor to do the right thing. You have to be brave. And sometimes you get tired. Work until the job is done, not until you're tired. That's a very, very key one. So that's the VIVA model. It's vision, values, vitality, and valor. I think if we followed those four, as the Stoics followed their four basic things, their basic values, if you will, I think it's going to be, I think people will be very successful, and I think they'll enjoy the work.
Thanks for that, Tim. We're moving at quite a pace here with lots of fantastic information. I'm going to keep going, if I may. Page 45. I love this. Commit these sentences in this order to memory. They will guide you as an effective leader. This is what I heard. This is what I think. This is what we are going to do.
There's an MBA in leadership, I think, in those three phrases, those three sentences. What I mean by that is, if you're the leader and you're facing a problem, of course, you talk about it with your team. You don't tell them without talking about it. You share them. You do the collective wisdom sort of thing. And so when you say these three phrases, this is what I heard, that means you listened. And that's very important for leaders, to be known as a listener. As a matter of fact, it is the #1 leadership skill by multiple studies, replicatable studies. So that you want to make sure that you listen. So this is what I heard, which indicates you listen to them and other people. This is what I think, which means you took some time to think about it, evaluate it, and so on. And then this is what we're going to do means you have made up your mind, and it flashes a neon sign that says, I'm the leader. This is what we're going to do. So this is what I heard. This is what I think. This is what we're going to do. And whether you're a leader in an organization, whether you're a leader in a family, I don't care how small or large the family is, if you're a leader in a charity, please listen to those three statements. This is what I heard, because there's so much behind it. So that's literally one of my favorite pages.
We've got a few leaders on here. I am going to ask them later what would they be asking the team what they think before they make their minds up. And I can see one or two of them smiling.
Well, that's that collaboration. That's the collaboration and connection being paramount now. So well, I hope so. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, buddy.
No, that's fine. Page 42, you can manage by the numbers, but you can't lead by them. I love that one.
Yeah, you can manage by the numbers. Just be careful about being tied to the numbers, because the numbers don't tell all of the story. I think it's a misnomer. If I looked at the numbers that people were producing on a team at certain times, it would look like the team wasn't doing well. What the numbers don't tell me, however, is the amount of energy, effort that they are expending, that are putting into place those factors and conditions which will create an explosive positive outcome. So yeah, it's not all about being by the numbers, and whatever you do, make sure your people never feel like they are a number.
I'm going to pick two more out, Tim, and then I'm going to throw the chat box open before we finish the session. And it might be a good idea to have another session on this in due course if you're up for it. Now, page 22. This is the ultimate energy management. You say energy is your strongest currency. I'm with you 100% there. And of course, there's a number of speakers on here, and it's so important to transmit your energy to the audience, and so many speakers just don't do that.
Yep. Yep. When it comes to speaking, I heard an advice a long time ago and I took it, and it says, fall in love with your audience. Find some reason to fall in love with your audience. They will feel it absolutely right away. But the point there is that a lot of people put a lot of energy into setting their intention, which is their goal. And then they think about their goal, think about their goal, think about their goal. And they perseverate on their goal. What I'm suggesting is that if you set your intention, then you let it go and pay attention to your attention. Time is not our greatest asset, our greatest gift. Our greatest asset, our greatest gift is our attention. What are we using our time to pay attention to? So when I've worked around, and you know about the work I do with mental management systems, elite athletes and performers, what I see them doing is they set the goal. I want to be world champion. And from then on, they just pay attention to their attention. They avoid distraction. They avoid anything that will stop them from getting their intention by paying attention to what their attention is. And I think that's very, very key.
Last one from me. I see we've got one in the chat box already. I love this one. Managing is about control. Leading is about unleashing. Who or what can you unleash? I'd like to put that also to the group watching this, because there's 22 powerful leaders here that can make a difference to other people.
Yep, that's a very powerful one. This is, boy, I'll never forget how when this went into the Commonplace, or when this into the notes. I read this quote by Harriet Rubin, which said, "Freedom is a bigger game than power. Power is about what you can control. Freedom is about what you can unleash." And if you look throughout history, even recent history, the yearning for freedom, the desire for freedom, our civil rights movement, the founding of our country, it was all about freedom. The Arab Spring, freedom will trump power, no pun intended, every single time. And because it's so when we're managing, it's about control. But when we're what we can control and making sure that our people control things. But when we're leading, it's about unleashing. It's about what can you unleash. And once you give people permission to try, and protection if they fail, as long as they can tell you what they learned, you're going to unleash creativity and energy in ways that you can hardly imagine. So.
Fantastic. So Amy's put a question. Amy's put a question in the chat box, page 75. Tim, focus on being brilliant at the basics. But here's the question: what are the basics?
Well, with the basics with our business is to have a strong opening, 2 or 3 points, and a strong closing. If you're in Will's, and I don't want to speak for Will, but if you're into networking, have a way to approach people, have a great opening line, know how to handle the groups of 3, and look at. So it's all about, in football, it still comes down to running and kicking. Okay, it doesn't come down to the bicycle kick, or it may come down, but you can't get the opportunity for the fancy kick or the fancy header until you know the basics. So we talk about staying with, I talk about staying with the fundamentals. Be absolutely brilliant at what is basic. In baseball, it's hitting a ball going 100 miles an hour, sometimes with a curve to it. If you can't, that's basic baseball. If you can't perform that, you're not going to play very long. All right. In selling, it's still asking questions. It's listening. It's the basic stuff. As a matter of fact, there's Neil Rackham, again, a nice Englishman. Neil Rackham invented spin selling, and he proved that sales productivity went down very quickly, very dramatically, when the sales rep stopped the basics and started getting fancy, stopped listening to the answers because she knew everything that had been done. She thought she did. She thought she was experienced. So staying with the basics, being brilliant at the basics will yield outstanding results consistently.
Absolutely. You've just reminded me the basics of negotiation, first of all, or selling, is to connect with the client and build rapport. And so many people skip that. And that depends in what country you're in, what culture you're in, etc., etc. And do we handshake now? Do we fist bump? What do we do? But we've got to connect, or we're just not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, and I think that you're absolutely right. That's what Will talks about, is just being brilliant at opening and doing the basic things. I think it's wonderful. I get very animated about that. Can I also, because there is a misprint in the book, can I also talk about one of the because nobody's going to figure it out if I don't do this. It's the one on page 37. My first book had it. The next ones I opened up didn't have it, so I don't know if people have it or not. But you should believe in ELBs, and I don't know where I got ELBs, but ELB stands for exponentially little bits. It's the unrelenting action that are small actions that accomplish goals and produce results. And I put something in there that I read somewhere, that 1.00 to the 365th power, which are the number of days in a year, 1.00 to 365th, that equals 1. That's nothing. It's the same thing, okay? No progress. But if you did 1.01, raise that to the 365th power, you have 37.7. You have vast multitudes of 1, 37 times almost. So that has been misprinted, and I apologize for that.
Well, we don't worry about that, Tim. I'll give you the negative bell there for mentioning that. No one would have ever noticed that in a million years, and your maths totally lost me. I just about got a GCSE in maths. So, Tim, we're really at the end of the time of our recording now. So can I thank you so much for coming on, for sharing the book with some of us. I know others will look forward to getting a copy of it. And can we thank Tim in the usual Monday night live way? Tim, thanks. Will you stay on and answer some?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been a pleasure. I certainly do. Thank you very, very much.
Off the record. And if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this on the Negotiators podcast, please like it, and please join us on any Monday night except next week, when Monday Night Live will be on Tuesday night. Thank you very much for joining us, and see you soon.